I'm here because I was just having a moment, right? It's in the silence of night. It's raining here in Dallas. And I was just thinking, like, just reflecting, doing some meditating. And this came to me, right? I connect very closely with the story of Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat, Joseph the Dreamer, whatever. In in that story, right? Joseph prophesies to his entire family, I'm going to be king and I'm going to be able to, help all of you out. I'm going to be, rich and I'm going to be able to do all this and all that just based off of a dream he had. The people in his life were so jealous of him and they thought so lowly of him, right? They were like, no, you're never going to be more rich than us. You're never going to have this. You're never going to have that. When Joseph went into a period of isolation, right? When they casted him out, when they counted him out, that's the thing. They counted him out. They sold his ass, right? When they sold him out, when they thought they were going to benefit from his misfortune, this is important. When they felt like they were going to benefit from his misfortune and they were going to literally sell him out, he had to be in separation from them. When he went, when he went away, he didn't automatically, first of all, the first thing is that he was not in contact with the same motherfuckers that sold him out. That's the first damn thing. They didn't have cell phones. He wasn't calling them and being like, out, but this is what's going on and da da da. No. And even if he had, what would they have done? First of all, why are you not dead? Second of all, like they really left him for dead and they sold his ass. His own fucking family. They left him for dead and they sold him out of jealousy. Right? First of all, he wasn't giving them updates on what the fuck he had going on. And second of all, had he been in contact with them, right, they would have kept going with with the lowliness that they felt about him. So for example, had they had cell phones back then, he was able to talk to them, they would have been like, oh, well, I see you're still not king yet. Oh, I see you still don't have this yet. I see you still don't have that yet. That wasn't God's path for him. He didn't immediately go and become the king. No, he went to freaking jail. And it was in jail that he was able to use his gifts. He wasn't getting paid for his gifts. He was getting by on his gifts because that is what God wanted from him. God had to put him in that place. And had he been in communication with those people who sold his ass out and didn't give a fuck about him and really tossed his ass out for dead, they would have been constantly discouraging him. They would have been constantly talking down to him. They would have been constantly projecting their lowly idea of who his identity was, their lowly thoughts and opinions of him on him. He would have never been able to prosper because he would have been constantly reminded. Well, Joseph was very optimistic, so I don't know like what that would have been like. But long story short, he wasn't in contact with the same motherfuckers that sold him out and counted him out and wanted him dead out of jealousy. And had he been in contact with them, they would have had nothing positive to say. They would have had no accolades for him or anything. And they would have probably rejoiced in the fact that he was in jail. They would have probably been like, look, well, I see, well, you're not king and you don't have any riches and, you don't own any land and you're not in a position to give us anything. They would have taunted him. God didn't put him in that situation. God didn't automatically move him. God didn't automatically honor his pilgrim. Well, not that he chose a pilgrimage, but God didn't automatically honor his movement by making him king right away. There was things he had to do before he became king. But regardless of the fact what God promised to him, and God never gave that promise to the people that didn't like him because they probably would have sold his ass the fuck sooner, feeling like they could have altered God's purpose for his life. They probably would have sold his ass. They probably would have killed him. To be honest, if God had given them the vision instead of Joseph, but no, Joseph stayed faithful to what he believed that God was telling him, regardless of who didn't like it and who was, who didn't have his back or whatever. And no, he didn't become king right away. He became king when God was ready for him to, and it didn't come without him learning certain lessons first. So what does that mean? If you feel God has placed a promise in your heart and for whatever reason the people that are closest to you, they don't understand or they don't believe it or they're not they're not under that same promise, like they're mad that God didn't promise them that, or that they don't have the same favor, or that people don't love them the same, or whatever, it doesn't mean that it's just gonna be given to you. Sometimes you still have to go through certain trials in order to learn certain karmic lessons. It just is what it is. That does not mean that you're not still favored. That does not mean that God doesn't still have a promise for your life. That does not mean that you are not meant to do the things that God has placed upon your spirit that you were meant to do. And if you have contact with the same motherfuckers that sold you out, cut that fucking contact. The thing about it is, a lot of people have intuition, especially even when it comes to dating. Like, you have that intuition. It's not that you don't know. You just move with your heart. Stop moving with your heart with these motherfuckers that then already showed you that they don't give a god shit fuck about you, and they would really rather sell your ass out and hope that you die than to see you succeed before them, or to see you have favor over them, or to see you have God's promise over them. That is all.